The smirk on Karen Whitmore's face said everything. She thought she had outsmarted everyone in Judge Judy's courtroom. Her perfectly glossed lips curved upward in that signature expression of smug superiority, the kind of smile that comes from someone who believes they've gotten away with something terrible. What happened in the next 12 seconds would wipe that smile off her face forever and create the most replayed moment in courtroom television history. But what Judge Judy said next didn't just embarrass Karen. It exposed a web of lies so deep, so calculated, so devastatingly cruel that even the seasoned courtroom audience gasped in horror. This wasn't just another small claims case. This was the moment when a serial con artist finally met someone who couldn't be manipulated, deceived, or fooled by crocodile tears and rehearsed excuses. Karen Whitmore had walked into that courtroom on a Tuesday morning with the confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences for their actions. Her designer suit was perfectly tailored, not a thread out of place. Her blonde highlights caught the studio lights just right, giving her that polished, successful entrepreneur look she had cultivated so carefully over the years. She carried a leather portfolio under her arm, stuffed with what she believed was an airtight case against her former business partner. Every detail of her appearance screamed success, credibility, and legitimacy. But beneath that carefully constructed exterior was something much darker. Something Judge Judy was about to expose to millions of viewers watching from their living rooms across America. The case appeared simple on the surface. Karen was suing her former business partner, Jennifer Martinez, for $5,000. She claimed that Jennifer had sabotaged their joint online boutique venture through negligence and poor business decisions. Karen's lawsuit painted herself as the victim, the experienced entrepreneur who had tried to save a failing business while her incompetent partner dragged them both down. She had receipts, she had documentation, and she had that unshakable confidence that comes from someone who has successfully lied their way out of trouble before. What Karen didn't know was that Judge Judy had spent the previous night doing something that would seal her fate. Investigation. Deep, thorough, meticulous investigation that uncovered a pattern of behavior stretching back years. Before we show you the exact moment Karen's world collapsed, the precise second when that smirk transformed into horror, you need to smash that like button right now. Because what Judge Judy reveals will shock you to your core. Hit subscribe so you never miss these epic courtroom takedowns where entitled people learn that actions have consequences. Trust me, what happens in this courtroom will restore your faith in justice and prove that no matter how clever you think you are, the truth always catches up. This isn't just a courtroom case. This is a masterclass in how one carefully chosen sentence can destroy years of lies and deception. What Karen didn't know as she settled into the defendant's chair, adjusting her suit jacket and placing her portfolio on the table with theatrical precision, was that Judge Judy had uncovered documents Karen thought were destroyed forever. Bank statements that told a very different story than the one in Karen's lawsuit. Text messages that revealed her true character. Security footage from crucial business meetings that contradicted every word of her testimony. And most damning of all, an email. One single email that Karen had accidentally sent to the wrong person, an email that outlined her entire scheme in devastating detail. That email was sitting in Judge Judy's folder right now, waiting for the perfect moment to be revealed. And that moment was coming very, very soon. Judge Judy had seen thousands of liars walk through her courtroom doors over 25 years of television. She had developed an almost supernatural ability to spot con artists within the first 30 seconds of meeting them. The way they held themselves, the micro-expressions that flickered across their faces when they thought no one was watching, the carefully rehearsed answers that sounded just a little too perfect. Karen Whitmore had triggered every single alarm bell the moment she walked through the door. The entitled posture. The dismissive glance toward the plaintiff. The subtle smirk that suggested she knew something everyone else didn't. Judge Judy recognized that look. It was the look of a predator who believed they had successfully isolated their prey and was now moving in for the kill. But Karen had made one crucial miscalculation. She had assumed that Judge Judy was just another authority figure she could manipulate with her polished appearance and well-rehearsed victim narrative. Sitting across from Karen in the plaintiff's chair was Jennifer Martinez, and the contrast between the two women couldn't have been more stark. While Karen exuded confidence and control, Jennifer looked like someone who had been through hell. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched a folder against her chest. Her eyes were red-rimmed from months of sleepless nights. Her clothes were neat but clearly not designer, the outfit of someone who had been counting every dollar while trying to survive financial devastation. Jennifer had invested her entire life savings into the business partnership with Karen. $45,000 that represented years of careful saving, sacrifice, and dreams of finally achieving financial independence. She had trusted Karen completely, viewing her as a mentor, a friend, and an experienced business partner who would guide her to success. Instead, Karen had systematically drained every penny from their joint account while gaslighting Jennifer about mysterious business expenses and market challenges. And when Jennifer finally started asking the wrong questions, demanding to see detailed accounting records, Karen had done something truly diabolical. She had filed a lawsuit against Jennifer first, claiming that Jennifer was the one who had mismanaged funds and destroyed their business. It was a classic Darvo tactic. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Paint yourself as the injured party while your actual victim struggles to defend themselves against your lies. Karen Whitmore wasn't just a failed business partner. She was a serial predator who had perfected her con over years of practice. What Judge Judy had uncovered during her investigation revealed a pattern so disturbing, so calculated, that it elevated this case from a simple small claims dispute to something far more sinister. This wasn't Karen's first business partnership gone wrong. It wasn't even her second or third. In the past 4 years alone, Karen had cycled through 6 different business partners, and every single partnership had ended the same way. A mysterious drain on the business account, accusations of mismanagement directed at the partner, and Karen walking away either through a settlement or a lawsuit that painted her as the victim. Each time, she had found a new target, someone with money to invest and dreams of entrepreneurial success. Each time, she played the role of the experienced mentor perfectly. And each time, she had left financial devastation in her wake while moving on to her next victim. The pattern was so consistent it was almost laughable. Karen would identify potential partners through networking events and business seminars, always targeting women who were new to entrepreneurship but had significant capital to invest. She would spend weeks building trust, sharing fabricated success stories from her previous ventures, and presenting herself as someone who had cracked the code on online retail success. Once the partnership was formalized and the money was transferred into a joint business account, the systematic theft would begin. Small amounts at first, charges that could be explained away as necessary business expenses. Then larger amounts as Karen grew more confident that her partner trusted her completely. The business would inevitably struggle because Karen was siphoning funds faster than any legitimate business could generate revenue. And when the partner finally started asking difficult questions, Karen would activate her exit strategy. Gaslight them about the financial situation, produce falsified documents showing the partner's supposed mismanagement, and ultimately file a preemptive lawsuit to cement her victim narrative. Karen's social media presence told a very different story than her string of failed business partnerships. Her Instagram account was filled with images of luxury vacations, designer handbags, expensive dinners at 5-star restaurants, and first-class travel accommodations. She portrayed herself as a wildly successful entrepreneur living her best life, someone who had achieved the financial freedom that so many people dreamed about. But Judge Judy's investigation had traced the source of these luxury purchases, and every single one of them had been charged to various business accounts belonging to her partnerships. The Bali vacation. The weekend in Paris. The shopping sprees in New York. The spa treatments and designer clothes. All of it was funded by money that her partners had invested with the expectation it would be used to build legitimate businesses. Karen had literally been living a lifestyle of luxury by stealing from people who trusted her, and then documenting that stolen lifestyle on social media for the world to admire. Jennifer Martinez had been Karen's most recent victim, but she was also going to be Karen's last. Unlike the previous partners who had been too emotionally and financially devastated to fight back effectively, Jennifer had something that none of the others possessed. Evidence. Detailed, comprehensive, irrefutable evidence that she had been collecting for months once she realized something was wrong. Jennifer worked as an accountant for a major firm, and her professional training had made her naturally meticulous about record-keeping. When the business started showing financial irregularities that didn't match Karen's explanations, Jennifer had begun her own quiet investigation. She had started keeping copies of every bank statement, every receipt, every email and text message. She had documented every conversation, every excuse, every promise that Karen made about returning funds or explaining expenses. And when Karen had accidentally sent that devastating email to Jennifer instead of to her boyfriend Derek, Jennifer had immediately forwarded it to her personal account and had it backed up on 3 different cloud storage services. That email was the smoking gun that would destroy Karen's entire defense. In it, Karen had laid out her complete strategy to her boyfriend with casual cruelty that was breathtaking in its callousness. She had written about how easy it was to manipulate Jennifer, how she had already extracted over $40,000 and was planning to drain the remaining funds within the next month. She had joked about Jennifer being so trusting and naive that she believed every excuse about business expenses and market challenges. Most damning of all, Karen had detailed her plan to file a lawsuit against Jennifer first, preemptively attacking her credibility and painting herself as the victim of Jennifer's supposed mismanagement. The email even included Karen's calculation of how much money she expected to gain from the lawsuit on top of what she had already stolen. It was a confession of fraud so complete, so detailed, that no amount of courtroom acting could explain it away. But Jennifer had even more evidence than just the email. She had enlisted the help of a friend who worked in IT security, and together they had recovered deleted text messages from the business phone account. Messages between Karen and Derek that showed them celebrating each successful theft. Messages where Karen mocked Jennifer for being stupid enough to trust her. Messages discussing luxury purchases they would make with the stolen money. Jennifer had also obtained security footage from a crucial business meeting where Karen had claimed she was negotiating a major wholesale deal for their online boutique. The footage showed Karen actually meeting with Derek at an expensive restaurant, charging a $300 meal to the business account while supposedly working on behalf of their partnership. Every lie that Karen had told was documented. Every fabricated business expense had been traced. Every manipulation had been recorded. Judge Judy's opening questions had been deceptively gentle, almost conversational. She had asked Karen about her business background, her experience in online retail, her understanding of partnership agreements and fiduciary responsibility. Karen had answered each question with increasing confidence, clearly believing she was educating this television judge about the complexities of modern business operations. Her tone had been condescending, with just enough fake respect to maintain plausible deniability. She would say things like "Your Honor" with the slightest emphasis that suggested she didn't really view Judge Judy as an authority figure at all. She would explain basic business concepts as if Judge Judy couldn't possibly understand them without Karen's patient guidance. Each answer was perfectly rehearsed, delivered with the smooth confidence of someone who had told the same lies so many times they had started to believe them themselves. The courtroom atmosphere had shifted subtly over the past few minutes, like the air pressure change before a storm. Judge Judy had moved from general questions about the business partnership to more specific inquiries about expenses and financial management. Karen had maintained her composure beautifully, producing receipts from her leather portfolio with the flourish of someone presenting winning lottery tickets. Each document was placed on the table with deliberate precision, each explanation delivered with the kind of patient condescension usually reserved for explaining complex topics to children. She was performing for the cameras, for the audience, and most importantly for the millions of viewers she assumed would see her as the wronged party in this business dispute. Jennifer sat quietly in the plaintiff's chair, her knuckles white from gripping her folder so tightly. She knew what was coming. She had reviewed the evidence with Judge Judy's producers before filming. She understood that this seemingly gentle questioning was actually a carefully constructed trap, and Karen was walking into it with the absolute confidence of someone who had no idea they were already caught. Judge Judy had been taking notes throughout Karen's testimony, occasionally glancing down at the thick folder in front of her. To Karen, these glances suggested uncertainty, perhaps even confusion about the complex business matters being discussed. Karen interpreted every pause, every moment of silence, as evidence that Judge Judy was struggling to keep up with the sophisticated details of entrepreneurial finance. This misinterpretation would prove to be Karen's fatal mistake. What Karen didn't understand was that Judge Judy had been a family court judge in New York for 25 years before her television career, handling thousands of cases involving fraud, embezzlement, and financial deception. She had seen every variation of Karen's con, heard every excuse, and developed an almost preternatural ability to let guilty people talk themselves into corners from which there was no escape. The gentle questioning wasn't confusing. It was a strategy. Judge Judy was giving Karen just enough rope to hang herself with, and Karen was eagerly accepting every inch of it. Then came the pivotal moment. Judge Judy looked up from her notes and asked about a specific business expense that had appeared on the bank statements. A luxury vacation to Bali charged to the business account for over $18,000. Karen didn't miss a beat. She had prepared for this question, anticipated it even, and had her explanation ready. She explained with practiced patience that it had been a business networking trip, essential for making connections with international suppliers and understanding global market trends for their online boutique. She produced receipts showing conference registrations and business dinner expenses. She painted a picture of herself as the dedicated partner who had made personal sacrifices to travel internationally on behalf of their business while Jennifer stayed home and failed to appreciate the effort required for true entrepreneurial success. It was a masterful performance, delivered with just the right mix of professional pride and wounded dignity at having her business acumen questioned. Judge Judy nodded slowly, appearing to absorb this information. Then she asked a question that seemed innocent on the surface but would prove to be the first crack in Karen's carefully constructed facade. "Were you alone on this trip, Ms. Whitmore?" Karen hesitated for just a fraction of a second. It was barely noticeable, the slightest pause before answering, but Judge Judy caught it and so did the cameras. Karen recovered quickly, her voice steady as she explained that no, she hadn't traveled alone. She had brought her assistant, someone essential for managing the networking opportunities and business meetings that had filled her schedule during the trip. Derek Matthews, she said, was absolutely necessary for the trip's success. He had handled logistics, managed appointments, and assisted with the crucial business relationships that would supposedly benefit their online boutique. It was a reasonable explanation, the kind that might hold up under less scrutiny. But Judge Judy wasn't finished with her questions. Judge Judy paused again, looking down at her notes with an expression that Karen continued to misinterpret as confusion or uncertainty. The silence stretched for 5 seconds, then 10. In that silence, something remarkable happened. Karen's confidence, which had been building throughout her testimony, reached its absolute peak. She had explained away the Bali trip. She had documentation for her business expenses. She had maintained her composure under questioning. And in that moment, believing she had successfully navigated the most dangerous part of her testimony, Karen made the mistake that would immortalize her in courtroom television history. The smirk appeared on her face, starting small and then growing more pronounced as the seconds ticked by. It was the smile of someone who believed they had won, who thought they had successfully deceived everyone in the room. Karen turned slightly in her chair, just enough to catch the camera angle, and that smirk was captured in perfect high-definition clarity for millions of viewers to witness. The smirk said everything about who Karen really was. It revealed the contempt she felt for Jennifer, for the judicial process, for everyone who had believed her lies. It was the expression of a predator who thought they had successfully isolated and defeated their prey. Karen even glanced toward Jennifer with that smirk still firmly in place, a look that communicated her belief that she had gotten away with everything. The audience members closest to the defendant's table would later describe that moment in interviews, talking about how unsettling it was to see such naked arrogance on someone's face while they were actively lying under oath. The court stenographer, who had been recording testimony in various courtrooms for over 20 years, would later say she had never seen anything quite like the confidence radiating from Karen in that moment. It was the kind of arrogance that comes from someone who has successfully manipulated people so many times that they no longer believe they can be caught. Judge Judy remained looking at her documents, seemingly oblivious to Karen's smirk and the growing tension in the courtroom. The silence continued to stretch, now approaching 15 seconds of no one speaking. Karen's smirk grew even wider. She had interpreted Judge Judy's silence as the judge struggling to find a way to proceed, perhaps realizing that Karen's documentation and explanations were too solid to challenge effectively. In Karen's mind, this pause meant she had won. The lawsuit would go her way. She would walk out of this courtroom vindicated, $5,000 richer, and free to find her next victim. The smirk on her face was the smile of someone mentally counting their winnings and planning their celebration. But what happened next would prove that Karen had catastrophically misread the situation. Judge Judy looked up slowly from her documents, and anyone who had watched her show for more than a few episodes would have recognized the expression on her face. It was the look of a predator who had been patiently waiting for exactly the right moment to strike. Her eyes locked onto Karen with laser precision, and the temperature in the courtroom seemed to drop several degrees. The casual viewer might have thought Judge Judy was simply ready to move on to the next question, but the experienced audience members leaned forward in their seats. They knew what was coming. They had seen this setup before, though never quite with this level of dramatic perfection. Judge Judy's voice cut through the silence with surgical precision, each word carefully chosen and delivered with devastating clarity. "Ms. Whitmore, that's interesting. Because Derek Matthews isn't your assistant. He's your boyfriend. And this business trip to Bali wasn't a networking opportunity. It was a 2-week romantic vacation that you charged entirely to your joint business account with Ms. Martinez. Every penny of those $18,000 was stolen money that you used to fund a luxury vacation with your boyfriend while Ms. Martinez was selling her personal belongings to keep your business afloat. The transformation on Karen's face was instantaneous and absolute. The smirk that had been so prominent just seconds earlier froze in place, creating a grotesque mask of someone caught between their confident lie and the horrifying reality of being exposed. The color drained from her face so rapidly it was almost supernatural, her carefully applied makeup suddenly standing out in stark contrast against skin that had gone pale as paper. Her mouth fell open but no sound came out. Her eyes, which had been gleaming with arrogant confidence, now showed something completely different. Shock. Horror. The desperate mental scrambling of someone trying to figure out how their perfect plan had fallen apart. The cameras captured every micro-expression, every second of her confidence evaporating in real time. This was the moment that would be replayed millions of times across every social media platform, the exact second when Karen realized that her lies had caught up with her and there was absolutely no escape. But Judge Judy wasn't finished. Not even close. She continued with the methodical precision of someone who had been preparing for this moment, who had every piece of evidence organized and ready to deploy for maximum impact. Let's talk about those business expenses you documented so carefully, Ms. Whitmore. The hotel in Bali, a presidential suite that cost $6,000 for 2 weeks. The spa treatments at the resort totaled $2,500. The fine dining experiences at 5-star restaurants came to $3,800. The shopping excursions where you purchased designer clothing and jewelry totaling $4,200. Not a single one of those expenses had anything to do with business networking or supplier connections. They were personal luxury purchases charged to an account funded by Ms. Martinez's life savings. Judge Judy pulled out bank statements from her folder, holding them up so the cameras could see the highlighted charges. Each transaction was documented. Each lie was exposed. Each manipulation was laid bare for millions of viewers to witness. Karen tried to speak, her voice coming out as a strangled whisper that barely registered on the courtroom microphones. Your Honor, this is taken out of context. Those expenses were necessary for building relationships with potential suppliers. The networking opportunities required a certain level of professional presentation and accommodation. But her voice lacked any of its earlier confidence. The words sounded hollow even to her own ears, the desperate protestations of someone who knew their lies were no longer believable but couldn't stop themselves from trying. Judge Judy cut her off with a look that could have frozen nitrogen. Context? You want to talk about context, Ms. Whitmore? Let's discuss the text messages between you and Derek Matthews. Judge Judy pulled out another set of documents, and Karen's face somehow managed to lose even more color. These are messages recovered from your business phone account. Messages where you discussed how easy it was to manipulate Ms. Martinez. Messages where you celebrated each successful theft. Messages where you mocked your business partner for being trusting enough to believe your lies. Judge Judy began reading selected messages aloud, and each one landed like a physical blow. Just told Jennifer the business needs another $10,000 investment. She actually believed me. Laughing emoji. The courtroom audience gasped audibly. Another message. She's so stupid she thinks we're actually building a real business. One more month and I can drain the account completely. Karen slumped forward in her chair, her carefully constructed facade crumbling completely. Her designer handbag slipped from her lap and fell to the floor with a thud that echoed through the silent courtroom. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to grip the edge of the table to steady herself. This wasn't just embarrassment. This was complete and total exposure of someone whose entire identity was built on manipulation and deception. Every person in that courtroom and every viewer watching from home was seeing the real Karen Whitmore, stripped of all her carefully maintained lies and revealed as exactly what she was. A calculating predator who felt nothing but contempt for her victims. But Judge Judy had saved the most devastating piece of evidence for last. The smoking gun that would eliminate any possible defense Karen might attempt. Ms. Whitmore, I want to read something to you. This is an email you sent 3 months ago. Unfortunately for you, you sent it to Ms. Martinez instead of to your boyfriend. Judge Judy paused, letting the significance of that mistake sink in before continuing. The email detailed Karen's entire scheme with stunning clarity. She had outlined her plan to extract the remaining funds from the business account, specifically calculating that she could steal another $15,000 before Jennifer would be too financially devastated to fight back. She had described her strategy for filing a preemptive lawsuit against Jennifer, knowing that attacking first would put Jennifer on the defensive and make Karen appear to be the victim. She had even joked about how much money she expected to gain from the lawsuit on top of what she had already stolen, treating Jennifer's financial destruction as nothing more than a profitable business transaction. The email concluded with Karen discussing her next potential victim, a woman she had met at a business networking event who had recently received an inheritance and was looking for investment opportunities. Karen had already started building that relationship, already begun the process of establishing trust that she would eventually betray. The email made it crystal clear that this wasn't a one-time mistake or a business partnership that had gone wrong. This was a systematic pattern of fraud, a business model built entirely on theft and deception. Judge Judy looked directly at Karen, her voice carrying the weight of absolute moral authority. "You're not a businesswoman, Ms. Whitmore. You're a thief. A con artist who has been systematically destroying lives while funding your luxury lifestyle with stolen money." Karen attempted one final desperate defense, her voice breaking as tears began streaming down her face. "Your Honor, please, I was going to pay it all back. I just needed time to make the business profitable. I made mistakes, but I never meant to hurt anyone. I was under so much pressure, so much stress trying to make everything work." The tears were real this time, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of someone who had finally realized that their actions had consequences, that the comfortable life they had built on lies and theft was about to collapse completely. Judge Judy watched this performance with the detached interest of someone who had seen this exact reaction hundreds of times before. She let Karen finish her sobbing explanation before responding with words that would echo through courtroom television history. "Ms. Whitmore, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that those tears aren't about what you did to Ms. Martinez. Those tears are about getting caught. You're not sorry for stealing $45,000 from someone who trusted you. You're sorry that you're sitting in my courtroom facing consequences for the first time in your life." Judge Judy's ruling was swift, decisive, and utterly devastating. "The case is dismissed," she declared, and Karen's face briefly showed hope before Judge Judy continued. "Your lawsuit against Ms. Martinez is completely frivolous and was filed in bad faith as part of your scheme to cover up your fraud. Ms. Martinez, you are awarded a judgment against Ms. Whitmore for $45,000 representing the full amount of your investment that was stolen. Additionally, you are awarded $15,000 in emotional damages for the months of gaslighting, manipulation, and psychological torture you endured. You are also awarded all court costs and legal fees. Total judgment, $62,000. Karen made a sound like she had been physically struck, a gasping sob that conveyed the weight of financial ruin crashing down on her. But Judge Judy still wasn't finished. "Furthermore, Ms. Whitmore, I am forwarding all evidence in this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. What you did wasn't just a civil matter. It was fraud, embezzlement, and theft. You systematically stole from your business partner while operating what amounts to an ongoing criminal enterprise targeting vulnerable women with investment capital." The courtroom erupted in applause, something that rarely happened but seemed entirely appropriate for this moment of justice. Jennifer collapsed forward, her body shaking with sobs of relief as months of stress, fear, and financial devastation finally found release. She had been vindicated completely, her truth validated in front of millions of witnesses. Karen sat frozen in her chair, the reality of her situation rendering her almost catatonic. In less than 10 minutes, she had gone from smirking confidence to complete destruction. Her carefully constructed image as a successful entrepreneur had been exposed as a facade. Her luxury lifestyle had been revealed as funded entirely by theft. Her future now included criminal prosecution, financial ruin, and the permanent stain of being exposed as a con artist on national television. The bailiff had to help Karen stand when Judge Judy dismissed the court, her legs too weak to support her weight as she was escorted from the courtroom. The designer suit that had looked so sharp when she entered now seemed like a costume, a prop from a performance that had ended in spectacular failure. Within minutes of the episode airing, social media exploded with reactions. The clip of Karen's smirk followed immediately by Judge Judy's devastating revelation became the most shared courtroom moment in internet history. The hashtag Karen smirk began trending worldwide within the first hour, accumulating over 50 million views across all platforms within 48 hours. The moment was dissected frame by frame, with commentators analyzing every micro-expression on Karen's face as her confidence transformed into horror. Memes proliferated showing Karen's smirk with captions like "the moment before disaster" and "this is my life now." The video was shared in business schools as an example of fraud detection, in law schools as an example of effective cross-examination, and in psychology courses as a case study in narcissistic personality disorder and the consequences of unchecked entitlement. But the social media storm was nothing compared to the real-world fallout that followed. Within 24 hours of the episode airing, all three of Karen's previous business partners had come forward with their own stories. They had been too intimidated, too financially devastated, or too embarrassed to pursue legal action before, but seeing Karen exposed on national television gave them the courage to seek justice. They contacted each other, compared notes, and discovered that Karen had used the exact same playbook with each of them. The same promises, the same manipulation tactics, the same theft disguised as business expenses, and the same exit strategy of suing the victim to maintain her facade of legitimacy. Together, they filed a class action lawsuit seeking damages totaling over $127,000. More importantly, they provided evidence to the district attorney that showed a pattern of criminal behavior spanning 4 years. This wasn't a series of failed business partnerships. This was an organized fraud operation that Karen had been running with impunity until Jennifer Martinez had the courage and the evidence to expose her. 6 months after her appearance on Judge Judy, Karen Whitmore's life had been completely dismantled. She was facing criminal charges that carried a potential sentence of 5 to 10 years in prison. Her husband, who claimed he had no knowledge of her fraudulent activities, had filed for divorce and was seeking to distance himself from her legal troubles. Their shared assets had been frozen by court order pending restitution payments to her victims. The luxury lifestyle documented on her social media had vanished completely, replaced by the reality of someone facing prison time and financial ruin. She had been forced to declare bankruptcy, unable to pay the judgments against her and drowning in legal fees from both the criminal case and the multiple civil lawsuits. Her name had become synonymous with business fraud, making it impossible for her to ever work in any legitimate business capacity again. Every potential employer who searched her name would find that courtroom video, that infamous smirk, and the complete destruction that followed. Jennifer Martinez's recovery had taken a different path. With the $62,000 judgment and additional settlements from the class action lawsuit, she had been able to rebuild her financial stability. She started a new online business, this time as the sole owner, applying all the hard lessons she had learned from her experience with Karen. Her business focused on helping other entrepreneurs avoid partnership fraud, offering consulting services on due diligence, contract negotiation, and recognizing red flags in potential business relationships. She became an advocate for fraud victims, speaking at business conferences and appearing on podcasts to share her story and help others avoid similar situations. The Judge Judy episode had given her an unexpected platform, and she used it to turn her nightmare into something positive that could help protect others from predators like Karen. She often said in interviews that the smirk was the moment that saved her life, because it perfectly captured Karen's true nature and made it impossible for anyone to doubt who the real victim was. If this story of justice and accountability moved you, if you believe that Karen got exactly what she deserved for her years of fraud and manipulation, then smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the like button if you think Judge Judy delivered the perfect takedown of an entitled con artist who thought she was too clever to get caught. Comment "never smirk" at Judge Judy below if this video restored your faith that consequences are real and that karma always catches up with people who hurt others. Share this video with anyone who needs to see what happens when arrogance meets accountability. Because in Judge Judy's courtroom and in life, the truth always wins and justice always prevails. Next time, watch what happens when an entitled mother tries to sue her own daughter for $50,000, only to discover that Judge Judy has security footage revealing a secret that will destroy her case and expose her as the most manipulative parent ever caught on camera. Trust me, you will not believe what those cameras captured or how completely this mother's lies unravel in front of millions of viewers. Hit that notification bell so you never miss these moments when entitled people learn that Judge Judy sees everything, knows everything, and always delivers justice.